In what follows, I want to set out a few key ideas in Stoicism. The goal is to explain the philosophy behind the famous quotes from Seneca and Marcus Aurelius that circulate online. What are the foundational principles of Stoicism? The ancient Stoics understood their philosophy as having three parts: logic, ethics, and physics. They insisted these three parts form an integrated whole. To illustrate this, they used simple images. Stoic philosophy, they said, is like an egg. Logic is the shell, ethics is the white, and physics is the yolk. Or it's like an orchard. Logic is the enclosing wall, physics is the trees, and ethics is the fruit. Or it's like a human being. Logic is the bones, ethics is the flesh, and physics is the soul. In each case, the point is the same. You can't have the whole without all three parts. So I'll say a bit about each part, choose one key concept from each, and show how they connect. Let's start with logic. By logic, the Stoics mean something broader than what we usually mean today. For them, logic is about knowledge. It's about what we can know, what we say, whether what we say is true, and whether our arguments hold together. It includes formal reasoning, but it also includes how we form beliefs and evaluate claims. The Stoics thought rationality is one of the defining traits of human beings. So they placed great emphasis on consistency. Most of us do too, even if we don't always notice it. We criticize people for being inconsistent. We dislike hypocrisy. And we distrust people who contradict themselves from one moment to the next. This concern with consistency will come up again and again. There's a lot we could say about Stoic logic, but I want to focus on one key idea: judgments. The Stoics argued that judgments are the foundation of our knowledge. We receive information through our senses. It appears in the mind. Then we judge it. We either accept it or reject it. And that judgment becomes a belief. Sometimes we judge well, and sometimes we get it wrong. That matters for understanding the world. But it matters even more because we don't only make judgments about facts. We also make value judgments. And those value judgments shape how we live. We pursue what we think is good and avoid what we think is bad. We feel happy when we get what we think is good and frustrated or distressed when we can't. In that sense, our emotional lives are deeply tied to the judgments we make. This leads to a practical Stoic task: learn to pay attention to your judgments. Too often we judge quickly, without thinking, almost automatically. The Stoics advise slowing down. Create a bit of distance between what happens and your reaction to it. That pause matters. It might apply when you see a dubious news story online and feel pulled to believe it immediately. Or when you hear a remark that feels insulting and anger rises before you've even checked what was actually said. In both cases, pausing before rushing to judgment makes it more likely you'll respond in a measured, appropriate way. From here, we move to the second part of Stoicism: ethics. If logic is about knowledge, ethics is about value. Ethics asks what is good and bad, and what we should or shouldn't do. Many people who are curious about Stoicism today focus only on ethics. But logic is essential because our ethical lives depend on our judgments. If you judge that something bad has happened, when in fact it hasn't, your whole response will be distorted. So ethics depends on the quality of our thinking. The key ethical idea I want to focus on is virtue. What is genuinely good? The Stoics argued that anything that is truly good must always benefit us. It must benefit us in every situation, not just sometimes. By that standard, they say there is only one thing that is good in itself: having an excellent character or an excellent state of mind. That can be hard to pin down because it includes several related qualities. It means being rational and consistent. It means being mentally healthy, not ruled by disruptive emotions. And it means having strong character traits like moderation, courage, and fairness. The Stoics believed that if you have this kind of character, you can flourish in any situation, no matter what life throws at you. And they thought the reverse is also true. If your mind is chaotic, anxious, irritable, or aggressive, that state will rarely help you and often harm you. So if you want a good life, the central task is not chasing external prizes. It's working on yourself. It's attending to your judgments. It's learning what deserves value and what does not. This raises an obvious question. What about everything else people pursue? Money, possessions, success, reputation. Are these good? The Stoics say no. Not because these things are always bad, but because they don't reliably benefit us. They help sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And having them doesn't guarantee a good, calm, happy life. You can have wealth and fame and still be miserable. If your mind is in a mess, external success won't fix it. So rather than placing your hopes on external things, Stoicism tells you to focus on what's under your control, your character, your values, and the judgments that guide your actions. Now we come to the third part, physics. For the Stoics, physics means the study of nature. It's the study of what exists and how the world works. The Stoics believed nature is governed by a rational organizing principle. Some of them called it God, but not in the sense of a personal deity. They meant a rational order that can be understood by studying nature. They also described this order as providential, but they connected that idea to cause and effect, to a kind of fate or necessity in how events unfold. People today often say that ancient physics is outdated, and in some ways that's true. But the Stoics thought physics mattered because it shapes how we understand our place in the world. The key idea I want to focus on here is interconnectedness. The Stoics argued that nature is a single unified whole. Everything is connected. We are parts of something larger than ourselves, and our well-being depends on that larger whole. We're also parts of human communities. We rely on other people constantly, even if we don't notice it. Few of us grow our own food, make our own clothes, and handle every part of living entirely alone. And even if someone did, they would still depend on the natural world. So none of us truly survives alone. We rely on each other and on nature. And we should take that into account when we make choices. Importantly, Stoicism says we don't need to choose between what's good for us and what's good for the community or the planet. In the long run, they are the same. A person who acts selfishly or antisocially has failed to grasp this reality. The Stoics would say that moral failure often comes from misunderstanding how the world works. This also shows how the three parts of Stoicism connect. Logic supports ethics because our judgments determine how we evaluate events and what we think matters. Physics supports ethics too, because understanding nature and our place in it shapes how we ought to live. So we can summarize three key ideas, one from each part of Stoic philosophy. From logic, judgments, which shape our experience of the world. From ethics, virtue, the one thing that always benefits us. From physics, interconnectedness, the fact that we are parts of a larger whole. Now let's talk about the Stoic goal. Earlier we touched on consistency. We might think of consistency in several ways. Logical consistency in how we reason, ethical consistency in how we act, and psychological consistency in having a stable mind rather than constantly shifting and reacting. For the Stoics, these are not separate. They are all expressions of the same thing, a coherent character making coherent judgments. Or put differently, making consistent judgments trains you into consistent thinking and consistent behavior. The founder of Stoicism said the goal of human life is to live consistently. Later Stoics expanded this idea into living consistently with nature and living consistently with what happens according to nature. In practice, that means a few things. It means living rationally. It means living in line with human nature, which includes being rational and being social. It means living in harmony with nature as a whole, working with the natural world rather than against it. And it means accepting what happens that is beyond your control without complaint. So the ideal Stoic life is rational, socially minded, in harmony with the natural world, and emotionally steady. To move toward that life, the Stoics recommend three things. First, pay attention to your judgments. Second, focus on what is truly good, which is virtue or excellent character. Third, understand that you are part of a larger whole. If you can do these three things, Stoicism says you can live a good, calm, and happy life no matter where you are, what circumstances you face, or what life throws at you.